S Club podcast, where we talk about real life, relationships, and real estate. I'm here with an amazing entrepreneur today who has used her pain and grief to discover her passion and purpose. Allie Stark, owner of Nourish Lake Country, is here today to share more about her personal story, as well as an exciting opportunity if you're looking to open a small business. Allie, welcome to the S Club.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So your journey with Nourish, I feel like is very personal. And a lot of it came out after your mom passed away and your autoimmune disease that you had. So can you share with us a little bit more about how that all came about?
Yeah, so my mom passed away when I was 22 years old. She was my best friend. She was a single mother of natural causes at 51 years old, which just never sat well with me because I'm like, well, what were the natural causes? So after that happened, I kind of started looking into more of holistic health and while dealing with my own grief, which for me, grief, I didn't want to feel it. So I really turned inward and started putting my head down and working to suppress those feelings and not feel them. And that catches up with you.
And how long ago was that when your mom passed away?
That was, I'm 35 now. So yeah, about 12 years ago. Okay. Yeah. So 13. So I then went on I had my autoimmune stuff come up. But how that came up was I went on a spiritual journey to Machu Picchu in Peru.
Oh my gosh, okay.
By myself. I was like, I'm just feeling called to kind of look into my spirituality and learn more about it to connect with myself more. And so I hiked to the top of Machu Picchu, and when I was there, I sat at the top. And I was like, I am ready to release anything that doesn't serve a purpose in my life anymore. And boy, did I not know what that meant, because I came home, and 3 days later, I had all these crazy symptoms.
And were you experiencing those before, or did
Never.
they just start after your trip? Okay.
It started after my trip. I came home, and I was having extreme joint pain, heart palpitations, headaches, numbness. I thought I was having a heart attack, like truly. So I went to the emergency room, and they were like, it's just anxiety. Go home. Sent me home with pills. And I was like, this is not anxiety. I know what anxiety is. And so I went back a couple times because I was like, something's wrong and help me. And I didn't get the help. So that kind of pushed me on this health journey of figuring it out for myself. And that was the start of my autoimmune journey.
So when you had those symptoms, did all that come up because of maybe the grief from your mom?
Yes.
Like, is that what you kind of think?
So that's what we came to realize was all of those repressed emotions that you hold in the body, it has to come out somehow. And I think when I was on that mountain in Peru and I set that intention, I was really, they're like, okay, we're going to help you release it.
That law of attraction.
Yeah. But we have to feel physically. And because I didn't allow myself that grief in the beginning and I just immersed myself in my work, it had to come out later. And when I set that intention, it was coming out through physical illness.
So how long did it take you to recover from that? And so what is an autoimmune disease, I guess? Like, how would you classify that?
What I found out I had was Lyme disease.
Okay.
I also had Hashimoto and just extreme gut dysbiosis. So I completely changed my diet. I cut out gluten, dairy, refined sugar, and soy. And I ate more paleo. I lost 80 pounds.
Wow.
I was not a healthy person beforehand. I think eating was like my emotional response. I also grew up on the standard American diet, which is probably what caused those gut issues, And so really on this journey, I was learning so much about food and how food is medicine in conjunction with that emotional healing.
So then did you right away open Nourish, or was it, how soon after this?
It was about after that. So 2018 was when I was in Peru. I opened Nourish in 2021.
So right after COVID then?
Yes.
Okay.
So COVID hit. I was forced to be home. I was working as a holistic esthetician in my own business. And I was juicing for myself during my autoimmune because my gut health was so poor that I was having a hard time digesting food, and everything I ate was giving me a reaction. So I started juicing so I could get those nutrients. And then I added bone broth in just because that like gelatinous texture was like helping with gut sealing. And it helped me so much. I mean, my joint pain went away. My skin was looking better than ever. And I was desperately wishing for a place like Nourish when I didn't feel like, cutting and chopping all the veggies and juicing and washing the juicer and taking like 5 hours out of my day to make these juices. And that's where the vision of Nourish started coming to life, was through my autoimmune journey of being like, I wish there was a place where I could go get clean supplements, get food that is free of gluten, refined sugar, and dairy, and all of these additives that are causing autoimmune in the first place.
And that's so admirable, because I feel like when a lot of people are in a situation like that, we tend to maybe go inward, we isolate, and you chose to essentially find a solution for your problem.
Absolutely. And I feel like the beauty of connecting with my grief was connecting through my mom through this process of like having her be my inspiration as well, because again, it just never sat well with me that she just passed away of natural causes at 51. She had high cholesterol and also lived off the standard American diet.
But it was natural causes. They didn't deem it was something else.
No, and I was so young. Unfortunately, I didn't get the, report, so they were thinking maybe a brain aneurysm. But again, I just think we weren't living a healthy lifestyle, and she also had very bad stress and anxiety, which is the root of so much.
So did you have the stress and anxiety before your mom passed away? Like, do you feel like you always had that, but it maybe came out?
Yeah, I've always struggled with anxiety, but I've always been pretty good at maintaining it. So that's why I said I've always had anxiety.
Sure.
This is not
you knew
anxiety.
What it felt like.
Yeah, I'm like, I know what anxiety feels like. This is not it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important message for me coming out of it, is to listen to your body, because nobody knows your body better than you, and you know when something's not right.
And you had to be an advocate for yourself in that situation.
And I think so many others with autoimmune do too, because in that Western medicine industry, sometimes they're not feeling seen, heard, and validated. And that's what I experienced. And I'm not knocking Western medicine. I think there's a great time and place. But if we could move more into Eastern and have both and
a good
meet
combination
in the middle,
and balance,
we could change the world, truly. Because Eastern's great for preventative, but we need that Western when we're past that point of prevention.
Absolutely. So at Nourish then, besides amazing smoothies and food, what else do you have there?
So we do all organic cold pressed juice. So everything is organic in the whole store.
And so that requires something, right, to be able to have organic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's huge, because they spray pesticides and whatnot on the food that cause also inflammation and gut dysbiosis. So everything is organic. We have all organic cold pressed juice, smoothies, smoothie bowls, herbal lattes. I make all the syrups in house, so like vanilla syrup, everything using coconut sugar. So you're starting your day off not in adrenal overload by getting bombarded with sugar. And then we also do adaptogenic mocktails and food items.
And the adaptogenic mocktails, what exactly is that?
So I'm also a certified herbalist.
Okay.
And that came about through my autoimmune journey of wanting to learn more. And so we mix different powerful adaptogens and herbs to make this mocktail. So people are getting this mocktail for people who might not want to drink.
Sure.
The herbs and adaptogens are making you feel euphoric, or maybe we're targeting sleep, or maybe we're targeting detox. So you're getting those benefits through a mocktail, and we can still make it tasty without the hangover and inflammation.
And then you started a whole nother business now, right, with the mocktail, where you do mobile, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mobile mocktails, so people can hire
that.
us. Yeah. And again, we make them pretty. So I use like Ollie Pop as the base, or like Poppy, or different ones that are not sweetened with refined sugar and good for gut health. And then we mix it with these different blends of herbs. And then we always like to, top it with fresh edible flowers, basil, like stuff to make it look pretty and give it the aromatics.
I love it.
So you're still getting that, because I just think when I was on my autoimmune journey and I let go of drinking, I was like, I can't go out. Like they'd be like, do you want a cranberry and Sprite? And I'm like, no. There was no options for mocktails. And so I'm like, why can't there still be an option where people can still kind of get that euphoric feeling if they're feeling, not as social without the hangover?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people, I mean, when I was in my 20s and stuff, yes, I drank, but now you want to be healthier. And a lot of times we cut out alcohol right away, and there aren't a lot of options, or you feel kind of left out sometimes, when you're out and you don't have something to drink.
I think there's a whole sober curious revolution happening right now, especially in the younger generation.
Yeah.
Like they don't enjoy the alcohol, which is really great to see because it is not great for us. But I mean, it's still fun to go out and have a drink and be social. So what if we can still have this social aspect without feeling that pressure to have to drink?
And you can get the mocktails at your location, right?
At my location, as well as I do classes where I educate on the different herbs and adaptogens, and then we make our own mocktails.
Nice. So you do that right at Nourish. Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
When you and I had connected, it was probably last week, we were talking a little bit too offline about just the importance of therapy and soul healing and mental health. So how do you balance being like a businesswoman, but still being able to manage stress, being healthy? How do you do that?
I'm still managing it.
I feel like it's ongoing.
Yeah, it does have to be this perfect duality, though, this perfect balance that I think is the hardest part of being a business owner. And I think that was my hardest part to overcome with Nourish, was having a social life in my life and not letting the business aspect take over. Yeah. And that whole first year, I didn't have that balance, especially. But now it really is important. I almost carve time out like I'm having a meeting, but it's self-care. I'm having a meeting with myself. And whatever I do with that time, whether it's yoga or just sleeping and taking a nap or, breath work, walking in nature, it is my time and I need that because I can't be creative if I don't have the space. To do that.
And I think a lot of us don't feel comfortable saying that, or we feel the pressure to have to perform and always be on.
Yep.
So you've created this incredible community over at Nourish. How are you able to do that in such a short time?
I think, as we were saying on that conversation last week, I think the biggest part I've learned through 2020 and through my autoimmune journey, it was the loneliest I had ever been in my life. All my friends left because I wasn't partying anymore and I wasn't going out to eat, and I did this 180. And I hear that from so many others who are dealing with autoimmune. So I'm like, how can we grow? At the end of the day, we all want to be seen, heard, and validated. And how can I create a community around that? And so I think the key with Nourish is it's not a buyer and a seller. It's so much more. We are invested in our customers' lives. We know what's going on, and we're super connected with them. And I'm a sharer. So I love to share.
Have you always
my
been
whole
that way?
life. Yeah.
Okay.
I've always been an open book.
When I follow you on socials, you're very vulnerable and honest, and I feel like I was drawn to you for that reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes though people aren't like that right away, but through therapy, I mean, you and I have spoke that we're huge advocates of going to therapy and seeing a therapist. But I think that's why people resonate with you, is because your vulnerability and honesty. It's refreshing.
And I think that's why I connect with other people who are also vulnerable. I think that's what we want. We're sick of having to pretend that things are perfect when they're not. And I think that that's so relatable.
Yeah, so what would be some advice that you would maybe give to somebody who's starting a business? Just some things that you would say to them.
I would say it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not be okay sometimes, but you have to have that why, that fuel, that passion, the passion that fuels you. So why do you want to start this business? And the most successful business owners I know, especially in the wellness realm, have a story like me that pushed them into the industry, and they're so passionate because they went through an experience. And so I think it's so important to have that why, and if you don't have that passion behind your business, I just don't think it's going to succeed.
You definitely see a difference between you and I would say other people I know who own businesses with your story. Yeah. I connected with you through your story. And when I visited your place, when I walk in there, I feel like I want to be healthier. I feel less stressed. Like I just feel peace when I walk into in your space.
That's the mission. That's the whole goal, is that community and connection. And I hope when people are in, and now especially we have dining in our new location, that they'll connect with the person sitting next to them, that they'll share. Maybe they sit by themselves and connect with themselves for that hour and connect back to the nature outside, being at the farm.
And you recently now moved locations. So you were in Delafield and now you were Stonebank Farm. And I love that collaboration.
Yes, it's a great collab.
What are your plans for Nourish now that you're at Stonebank?
Yeah, so we were in Delafield, which is, a prime spot, and we left. And I also think that's part of my goal with business is like, it's almost like a puzzle, like, okay, how do we now get people, out here and how do we make this shift? And it is having such a powerful product and fuel behind it that the people will come and you just have to trust that. And so I've always gone to the Stonebank Farm Market through my autoimmune. I found it, and it was a safe space for me. So it was kind of like a whole 180 to come back to now being at the market, which was so cool because it was such a sanctuary through me during a dark time in my life to have a place to go get clean food. And so I approached Michelle, who owns the market, and I said, hey, I am looking at moving. I love what you're doing here. Would you ever think about collaborating? And because that's the key too. I think with businesses, we always feel like it's a competition. And when we put our heads together and we collaborate, magic happens. And when women especially support each other, it makes a huge difference. And so I think that that's just such a great fit.
Yeah, I think we see a lot more competition. I mean, in all industries.
Yeah.
And the healthy people are the ones who collaborate. And it sounds like you found a great fit over at Stonebank.
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar with what Stonebank is, what exactly is it?
So Stonebank is a magical sanctuary. It is located just 10 minutes from where we were, and it's a beautiful drive, scenic drive, especially during the fall. And they have the farm right there. So they have the animals, they do the produce, you can walk the land, they do yoga there, and then they have the market inside in which they sell all the produce. They also sell like clean products and all that kind of stuff. And now we have the cafe right inside the market. Okay,
so you moved into Michelle's space, like in there, but then all the food now we were talking about that you serve is sourced from the farm.
Yep, so we collaborated with the farm. So Nourish still does everything Nourish was doing, and now we're adding the food that is being made by the chefs at the farm. And so we're doing like toast, a seasonal toast. So right now it's like a delicata squash, apple, tarragon, pumpkin seed one. Probably in winter, we'll do like a salmon lox toast. So it's going to be whatever's in season, fresh from the farm. And it just goes back to the power of connecting to our local farmers and where our food is sourced and putting our money into our local communities and getting it right from there.
And did you have to go to school for this? Or what type? I know you mentioned a couple certifications that you have. Yeah.
So I went to IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. So I'm a certified holistic health and wellness coach, a certified herbalist, and then I also am a Reiki master. So I do energy work.
And do you do all that at Nourish?
Yes, I do. Wow. So yeah, I was doing it. I kind of retired. Like I was also a holistic esthetician, retired that to now do more. I'm putting all of my certifications together and doing this coaching program.
Okay, and speaking of your coaching program, I saw that you announced recently on socials that you're going to start helping. Is it other small business owners?
Yes, I want to help other small business owners kind of find or people who might want to start a business but don't know how, get passionate and get that confidence and letting go of blockages energetically, emotionally that might be holding you back from the full potential of the business or starting that business.
So when you started Nourish, were you completely on your own or did you have any support?
I was completely on my own. So I actually had my holistic health and wellness business doing skincare. I saved all my money from that business, and I used that money to open Nourish. I took out 0 loans.
Wow. Okay, which is not normal at all.
No. But I started small. I got like the couple things I needed, my blenders, refrigerators, and then it quickly grew, which I was not ready for. So when I first started in the beginning, I was a one-woman show. I don't know how, looking back, this is how mothers must feel when they have children, and you just have this adrenaline that like pushes you through, because I was working the cafe from 8 to 3. And then I was sometimes seeing facial clients, and then I would be there juicing till 2 in the morning. And then I would wake up and do it all over again.
And sometimes you have to do that in the beginning, right, when you're running lean.
You have to learn the ins and outs.
But then you probably got to a point where you were able to bring on other people to help support. So now, how many people do you have working with you?
8.
Wow. Okay. And does your husband
work
with you? Okay.
My husband left his full-time job.
Wow.
And is fully invested in Nourish now, too.
Okay. And is he at the store then?
Yeah.
He does. Okay.
Yep. So I was kind of drowning, and I'm like, I need help. And Nourish it took off so much faster than we anticipated, which was so great. And I think it was because people are craving this. And that's what we're seeing is people want clean food. Like they're asking for this. And so I was like, he was unhappy at his job. And I was like, just come help me, which was really scary because that's benefits and, security. But we're both fully invested in Nourish because we believe in it.
Yeah. What's been the most rewarding thing for you since you opened Nourish?
The connections I've made with our community.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've made lifelong friends.
Just from people
Nourish.
Coming in and
They were customers and now they're like my great friends. I vacation with them, like we do things together, which I'd also love in the future to do like Nourish vacations and go and do like wellness retreats in cool exotic places because I love to travel. But it's that community that really kept me going during those days I wanted to give up.
And we were kind of talking offline too, how that's kind of lacking a lot right now, the community. So how would you like to get that back now that you're at Stonebank Farm, like that community back?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think the biggest thing is gaining the trust through my expertise, but sharing. Like I said, I'm a sharer. And then just showing people, like we are using truly the best ingredients. Everything is on display. You can see it. We're not hiding things from you. And I think people really appreciate that.
And if
the
somebody
transparency.
Sure. And if somebody does want to connect with you and they can hire you, right? Correct, as a coach?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And is it
one-on-one.
just businesses or would it be for other personal stuff as well?
Personal stuff as well. So business and personal. We are fully doing both. So personal, it's a 3-month program. The first month we focus on mind. So like what emotions are you holding on to? What blockages, what stories from your past are you still holding on to that's holding you back from your full potential?
And do you feel like that first step is something that's missing a lot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always have to do that to get to step 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's the biggest point is people rush in, but they don't have that they're not their healed selves. They didn't do the work. And so then they come in with fear and insecurities and have scarcity mindset, which you just can't operate a profitable business from scarcity.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize how much that internal stuff has an effect on you.
Yeah. Your confidence.
And is that why you did therapy then?
Yes.
Okay. Was to kind of work through the stuff with your mom? And,
yes, the grief. Because I didn't realize how much grief was affecting me on a day-to-day basis.
Or like you said, a lot of us just keep going. We find maybe a healthy distraction like work. And we just think, hey, we're going to be able to move by it. And sometimes
it will go
you
away.
Have to work with somebody to get through that.
Yes. So I share a safe space for people to release and share and help them through those obstacles of like how to deal with things in a healthier way.
And I think it's so much more relatable because you were in that yourself, right? Like you experienced that.
So that first month is the mind.
Okay.
The second month, then we actually focus on the body, like the physical body. I paired up with a woman who does biofeedback. which kind of gives you a snapshot of what's going on inside the body.
And what is biofeedback? Is that like a test or?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a test. So they kind of hook these like electrodes up to you,
Sure.
and it like runs a scan through your body, and it like tests your organs to see like what, and it can even see like, do you have parasites?
Really?
Yes.
And it's all outside, like external?
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So they're using this technology in Europe before you see the doctor to actually diagnose you.
Wow.
Yes. But of course, in America, you know, I think we kind of run off of sick care.
Yeah.
And that's the bummer of like, they make money off of us not being well.
Yeah.
And that's what I think so many people are realizing. And that's where they're feeling this call to more holistic health.
Yeah. I know this past year too, I started to see a holistic doctor just to get prescribed more like natural supplements and how to keep my body just feeling good, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just don't feel good and you don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But it's amazing what you can be put on for supplements and
Yes.
how big of a difference that can make you feel.
It might be
Yeah.
as simple as a mineral deficiency.
Right.
That you feel awful and then you figure it out and you're like, oh, I just needed more iron.
Sure. Or food, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, and we get nutrients from our food. So that's looking at the body, like physical ailments, and then I'm working with like making them custom tinctures for each step of the way. And then that third month, which is my favorite, is that spirituality and your connection to self and like, what is your purpose? What is your passion? What did you come here to do in this lifetime? And fueling them to make them be their best self.
So the program you said is, how long would it be? 3 months?
3 months.
Okay. And then do they start their own business after that, or it depends?
Yeah, so whether they're already in business or they're looking to start their own business, it's removing the blockages that are keeping you hesitant from being your best self, because in business, you need to be your best self.
And a lot of small business owners, I feel like, don't take care of themselves, and they get
No.
worn out, and
Yeah.
because they're doing everything by
I
themselves.
think there's like statistics, and this is a little dark, but like suicide rates like are highest in business owners.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it has an effect.
And I think there's not enough talk about that. And it's like already in America, I feel like, and just the world, we live in such a hustle culture where it's like you feel this guilt for slowing down and taking time for yourself. But like, how can you operate when you're like not fully able to because you're like so exhausted? And creativity and being the visionary, which is like my specialty, needs space and time to be that creative.
So you mentioned you do a lot of self-care for yourself. Is that like a certain routine that you have every day, or how does that look? What do you do for yourself?
I'm big on a morning routine.
Okay.
Like I need my morning routine. So in the morning, I like to wake up, and I'm a red light girl. I like to do my red light, and I'll do like my manifestations
And what's
for
red
each
light?
day. So it's like light therapy.
Okay.
And red light helps with like not only the skin, but it helps on a cellular level for like detox and like joint pain and inflammation. So like a lot of athletes will do it after like a big game to help lower that inflammation load in the body.
And do you have that at Nourish, or is this something that you do at home?
It's
You go
something I do
somewhere?
at home.
Okay.
So I do that in the morning, and I always do my manifestations and affirmations. So I always like to envision like where do I want to be and act as if I'm already there. So it's like you already have these things and you're manifesting them to come into fruition. So I do that every morning.
Okay.
Of like my future vision of my future self.
And what are some of those visions that you have for yourself?
Yeah, so some of those visions for me is I would love to create an NA Spirit line, my own NA Spirit line. I would love to expand Nourish, but I don't want to be a chain just because I feel like Nourish is such a intimate.
so special.
It's so intimate. And I think that that's the beauty. And maybe that sometimes is making those decisions of like, yeah, I could scale and have multiple locations, but wouldn't it lose its beautiful essence of that connection and community? And so that's kind of my thought process on that is I think Nourish physically doesn't need to grow. We need to grow the community around Nourish and bring them together. So growing that community and continuing to grow Nourish, and then growing my coaching business and doing more online classes and programs like a gut health course and hormone course, And all of those things, mixing all my expertise together, where people who may not be in Wisconsin can also connect.
Yeah. And we had talked too about you creating kind of more of a community of women too at Stone Bank.
Yeah.
So what would some of those things be too?
Yeah, so we're actually looking at launching a free women's circle on Fridays where women can come, share their stories. It's a safe place, and we can help each other, hold each other, and be that space for them to let go and share what they're going through, and we can give feedback. Because I think through sharing our stories, we realize how much we can relate with one another, because we're all going through it. We just are not sharing it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us feel like we have to pretend, right? Everything's fine. We have to live up to a certain facade that we've created, and it just feels good once you know who you are.
Yes, and being able to share that and have other women be like, I totally relate with that, and I'm going through something similar. And I think that's where we change humanity and we shift humanity.
So your mom's looking down on us today.
Yeah.
What do you think she would say about Allie and what she's accomplished?
Oh, God, don't make me cry. I think she would be so proud.
Yeah.
And I think her dying was not, I think she left unselfishly to give me this gift of helping heal others. And so I think that was her purpose in life, was to give me this to help others. So it was like very unselfish of her to go and let me have this of going through this journey that is now helping so many other people. So it's like, she is that. That's her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just have to tell you, I love you. I love who you are.
Thank you.
I love your vulnerability, your honesty, and what you put out there.
Thank you.
And yeah, just for the community that you've created, it's just inspiring.
Thank you. And I think that that's, so important, is getting back to that connection.
So we always kind of end every podcast with this question. It's called the R Factor question.
Yeah.
And my coach, Dan Sullivan, asks it a lot. So if you and I were sitting here a year from now, what would you feel needs to happen, both personally, professionally, or one or the other, for you to feel like you made progress? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but
that's a great
it's a deep question.
It is a deep question. I think continuing to do my inner work. I think the more I do my inner work through therapy, which is new for me, and other, healing modalities, and creating quiet space, I am able to have all my creativity. I don't know if you've ever noticed, like in the middle of the night when you're sleeping and you wake up and like you're this creative and all these things come. It's because we're quiet.
Yeah.
And I need more of that quiet space, because that's when my best visions come of where to go next and what needs to come into fruition. And I also think just seeing what people are wanting, seeing what people are asking for, being kind of an intuitive and an empath myself. I feel what others are feeling, and I think I know what they're wanting more of. And so just keeping that going, but mostly that inner work.
That internal work.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today and for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course.